All right. Well, everyone, it's kind of interesting times as we go back and forth, and generally we've gotten to the point where we try to give out some pretty solid information, what's going on in the marketplace, and what to look for, but more importantly, what technical tools to use. And I think if just to make sure before we begin, just make sure I did a sound check earlier. I just want to make sure tonight the sound check is feasible. How do we look for proper setups in the market? When do we know that we're getting near an overvalued area that we want to sell? And I'll repeat that, an overvalued level that you want to sell. And when do we come to an undervalue area that we want to be a buyer? We need to look for some momentum studies. We need to look for something that's going to give us a trigger. So there has to be some type of a pattern or a setup that we're looking for. So what I'm talking about tonight is the 5 steps to properly scan for trading opportunities. Whether you're trading Forex, whether you're trading futures, whether you're trading stocks, I think this will be applicable for everyone involved. And if you're only trading Forex, eventually you might come over to the light side of trading and look at stocks eventually. And if you're trading stock options, and this should be really a neat experience for you, because quite frankly, trading a lot of these products are optionable. And using the seasonalities and looking at the patterns and the setups, and of course using person's pivots, which I'm sure many of you have by now probably have access to, at least have a better understanding about using pivot analysis. If not, I think tonight's presentation will certainly shed light on that. So bottom line, this is a educational presentation, just to let you know that we are, nothing, trading is risky, and, just as it states here, we generally like to, by law, let you know that there is no warranty of profits of using any of these methods, and past performance is really a good one. I like this. Past performance is not indicative of future results. And so if that statement holds true, so the U.S., the government, the CFTC, the SEC, the whoever, FINRA, whatever you want to call it, they want to make sure we tell people this, because I think, and we're all adults here, I mean, we all know that trading is risky. You should know that trading is risky, and even my methods aren't 100%. I know that. I know that sounds strange for someone that's giving an educational presentation to say, your stuff doesn't work all the time. But past performance is not indicative of future results, and I'd like to address that tonight, because it's actually true. We can use seasonal analysis to help us what the average trend of the market is, but we don't know whether we're going to see a magnified move or a muted move. And that's what's up to us to uncover, as we will share with you tonight. So the priorities and the 5 steps that I like to look at is I've got to have some directional ideas. And then I look for those setups. Next, I've got to have a trading strategy. And a trading strategy, it simply is, in my books, I define that as what capital is required to put the position on. So if I'm going to look at a trading strategy, I have to say, if I'm going to go look at a futures position, what's the initial margin requirement to hold a position overnight? And if the initial margin requirement's $5,000, $10,000 per contract, obviously that's a very capital-intensive position. Next, I have to look at the execution, my entry level. I can have a great idea. I do some pretty, I think I do some pretty decent market analysis, just to put it mildly. The problem is that maybe our analysis is so good that we look to pinpoint exact entry spots, and the market comes down, hits us, and it doesn't get us filled. So therefore, execution is really an integral part. Hypothetical and theoretical entries and simulated trading, man, that doesn't hack it, because you can get filled on a theoretical platform and say, look, this trade made money, and in reality it didn't trade through you and you didn't get filled. So remember, execution is really obviously it's the essence of the market trading. Trade management. Where are you putting your stops? What's your risk? What's your potential reward? How can I sit there and look at a trading strategy and say, if I'm going to put $9,000 on a contract of gold, for example, gold futures, if I'm going to put that kind of capital down, what's my risk on the trade? Where's my stop go? And what's my potential reward? And of course, position sizing. how many of those positions can I put down? If I put down just 10 positions, obviously I had a $90,000 outlay of capital on the line trading a commodity. So perhaps I shouldn't trade a gold contract, but I like the setup, I like the directional, I like everything, my criteria are all met. Maybe I should look at another product, perhaps an option strategy. Can I get execution? Can I get an option trade off? Or perhaps maybe I could look at a different way of trading the market and move into an exchange-traded fund. So there are all different ways that I could look for those trading priorities. And many of you know some of the indicators and studies that I use. First off, I definitely look at seasonal analysis. It helps anticipate market turns. Next, I use person pivots, multiple time frames. Now, I'm going to share with you tonight, and I think we have a lot of users on Genesis right now. And this is something you've probably never seen before, so I'm just going to show you right now. If you take a look at the top toolbar here on Genesis, it says JPD. That stands for daily pivots. If you look at JPW, those are weekly pivots, okay? And that's what we had up just right now. And as you can see, yesterday's trade came right up near the weekly pivot. In fact, I tweeted about this right as the market was trading in here. I tweeted, watch out, the S&P is coming right near the weekly pivot resistance of 1440, and of course I was referring to the December front contract month. So one of the things is if you're not on my tweets, it's at Persons Planet, and just get on the tweets. And I definitely send out some, I don't tweet about the sky is blue and how nice things are. Maybe I should start to do that. I actually do some decent tweets on things that are relevant into the marketplace. So and that's just something I think you can go and look at some of those past tweets and see what I'm talking about. But in the meantime, you'll also look at this JPM. That stands for monthly pivots. And then this is something no one's really ever seen before. And it's something that we launched, and I think this group right now, you're probably the first group publicly online that I've ever introduced the concept to. But it's the use of quarterly pivot analysis. So what's really cool is that a lot of people are not familiar with a quarterly outlook on pivots. And so I'm here to tell you, I've been using them for a couple decades. I just never really shared the information. Many times I've talked about longer-term pivots, and this is what I was really referring to. Quarterly pivots are pretty cool in the sense that they work an awful lot in a lot of different markets. In fact, I'm here to show you just so that you can see this. Let's take a look at Apple, for example. So we go over to a weekly chart on Apple. If I get the right symbol up, here we go. And if you notice, right there in the last time frame, we hit right up against the pivot resistance. It was pretty neat stuff how the quarterly pivots react with the markets. So we have quarterly pivots, and we also have option expiration for Genesis users. So for the time being, for those interested that currently have Genesis, all you have to do, and just to give you an example, how many people do have Genesis right now? If you have our indicators right now on Genesis, okay, y'all have this, and would you like quarterly pivots set up on your charts? Would that be kind of neat to have the quarterly pivots up there? It would? Okay, great. So here's what you do. Watch this. I want you to go over to File. I want you to go to Update Data, and I want you to check on Download Special File, hit Upgrade. Don't do it now because obviously we got more to show you. And then hit Start. So now when you do that, it's going to upgrade, and then I want you to go over to View, and I want you to go down to Customize Toolbars, and then this window pops up. I want you to scroll all the way to the bottom, or maybe not so much at the bottom. And 3/4 of the way here, as you can see on the scroll bar here, 3/4 of the way, and you'll see where it says JP Daily, JP Weekly, JP Monthly, JP Quarterly Pivots, JP Expiration. That's option expiration. And all you got to do, if you want it to show up on your toolbar, that's what this is up here. If you want it to show up in your toolbar, just check it, because if you take it off, right, you'll see it just went away. If you click it, it just went away. So check it, it comes right back up. Hit OK, and now you have those little buttons, and now you can overlay all the pivots that you want. Now, if you're using a daily chart, I wouldn't use intraday or end of day pivots. You know, weekly, monthly, quarterly. Quarterly are really cool because you only have to do it once a month, right? So it's very easy to use, and it gives you a layout of a hidden value that you will never have seen before in the marketplace. And I'm here to tell you that. So you'll have fun with that, and I think it like, for example, even in the S&Ps, you know, we had that hidden quarterly pivot support, and I'll show you. You know, look at, I mean, I don't know if this would have helped you out. If you knew that there was quarterly support at 13.37 and 3/4, okay, the low, you know, just traded right at 13.34 1/4, as you can see at the upper toolbar. Pretty close, though. So, you know, when you look at the quarterly time frame of the quarterly pivots, it really will help give an outlook of what the market should do within a quarter. How would that benefit option traders? Think of the power that you have to understand that if this is the low, or if you're coming near a potential high or low for the quarter, the whole quarter, and you're at this time frame, what kind of option strategies might you be able to employ? You already have a kind of a time frame, and now you can go back to our planning of looking at your trading strategy, because you know what kind of time frame you're looking at. So seasonal analysis is important. Person's pivots, multiple time frames. So now I have probably, for an option trader, a pretty impressive time period. So we've got, I don't want to discriminate against our friends that are in the Forex. So let's go look at a Euro currency. So for those who are trading Euro or Forex, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and look at a Forex, because I know that some people think that futures isn't quite Forex and it's a little bit different. So if you have the outlook, this is the Euro currency, and notice how the pivot actually lines up and works for on a quarterly basis, and you can go back and look at it on a back test on how it's relevant with the foreign currencies. And I think you're going to be like, wow, this is really, really helpful. If the market gets near a quarterly resistance, it's a higher degree time frame. You know, you're looking at banks, institutions, and higher, I wouldn't say higher leveraged traders, but I would say longer term traders are looking at these quarterly pivot resistance and support levels. So I think it's something that it's now time for me to say, and we've actually put this in a piece of work that I'm not going to talk about right now, but it's a new book that's coming out. But I just thought, for all of you who have Genesis, what I just showed you right now, if you already have my templates, if you already have this, there's no fee for it. It's free. I just showed you exactly how to do. Upgrade, just upgrade, and it's going to be under View, go under Customized Toolbars, and scroll down and find about 3/4 of the way, like I said, and wherever I said to go, it should be right here. 3/4 of the way. Maybe it's a little bit past halfway. All right, and just add those, and you'll have them. So happy holidays, and I think that's something that everyone who currently has the Genesis is going to enjoy that. All right. So now let's get back to our presentation for those who don't. For those who use TOS, Thinkorswim. Thinkorswim, we won't be able to put this on probably until end of first quarter next year. So it's not something that's planned. It's something that's, you know, it just too many things are ahead of this for them to add. So it would take it. If you believe me when I tell you the programming it takes to do quarterly pivots, because remember, this is actually, it's not a rolling 3-month period. So in other words, if you're doing a quarterly, you want what? First quarter is January, February, March, and then you want second quarter, which is April, May, June. Well, if you do a quarterly pivot or a 3-month period, then you're going to get one every 3 months, and you're not going to get the actual quarter. In other words, you might get December, January, February. Well, that's not a quarter. That's a 3-month period. That's different than quarterly, the quarterly pivots. If the world trades on a quarterly outlook, right? We trade on a quarterly outlook. We trade on an end of year. We trade at end of day. We trade end of week, right? End of month. We trade end of quarter. When the quarter ends, we have what? quadruple witching, right? So there's expiration. So quarterly pivots are very important to look at a longer term outlook. And to program that correctly takes a little bit of, it's a little tricky, I'm here to tell you. All right? So we're very proud to have that, and that's what the indicators and the studies that I use, Persons pivots, multiple time frames, something that might help you. Obviously, we look at momentum, closing prices compared to past price action. One of my favorite, and as many of you know, is candle charts and looking at candle patterns. And I have several of my own proprietary candle setups that we have. Many of you Trading Trigger University students and people that have followed or read my books, I know there's a lot of people that have bought the books. I don't know if people have actually read them, but if you have actually read them, and it's funny because I actually have probably one of the most reliable patterns ever created, and yet I have people that say I've read his book and his candlestick book's not that good, and I laugh because I've never really been able to trade successfully off some of the other candlestick patterns. I mean, looking at advancing three white soldiers. I mean, really, how many people can really trade off some of these multiple candle patterns? It's kind of hard, right? We need something a little bit yet more defined. And for me, don't you think I want a pattern that has a high reliability rate, meaning every time I see the pattern, it works more times than it doesn't. And then I want to know a defined area of a systematic stop loss. Like if the market takes off, where do I put my stop? Does it go underneath the low of a particular candle? So coming up with certain candle patterns was pretty important. So for me, those are some of the things that I like to use. I like confirmation with major indexes that are in sync with momentum. In other words, if another thing I like to look for, if the dollar's weakening, is the dollar weakening against a basket of currencies, like, for example, the pound, the yen, and I know there's a lot of cross currents there, but a lot of times you'll see certain currencies not go in normal sync, like the Aussie and the Canadian, for example, or the loonie, as they call it. But for trading day in and day out, I like to look at, especially in equities, I like to look at the S&Ps, the NASDAQ, the Russell, and the Dow. I like to see if all those major indices are in sync with momentum. Are they all going up, or are they all in buy signal together? Many of you know I use a moving average component to help identify trends and order entry techniques, such as if you know about my PPS indicator on TOS or what I've just showed with even Genesis. This indicator is a momentum indicator. So it helps me identify when there's a bullish and bearish trend reversal. Very important. And of course, I use candlesticks to identify losses or gain of momentum. So knowing all this, how can we put this together and look for scans? Well, I think what we've done in past seminars, folks, is said, listen, this is the time of year that we see this happen. Now we're coming to the end of the year. What sectors are looking good going into the end of the year? I'm here to tell you the euro currency typically rallies going into year's end. And guess what? It's been in sync with its seasonal tendency. The euro currency has rallied going into year's end. But on or about, and again, I know this is the 13th of December. It's the week of Hanukkah. We've got one more week of active markets, and then we're in Christmas. It's kind of a really mixed week, and then we have New Year's, and it's really time to reflect. People will take off, like me, for example, and then we come back to the new year, and then we'll find out whether our leaders in Washington can resolve the fiscal cliff or come to some type of agreement or last-minute potential deal. But despite that, we will see typical human functional behaviors. Supply and demand functions are there. People get sicker in the wintertime. Than they do in August, for example. And that's why we've seen healthcare, and we've seen, I don't know if you've gone to a Walgreens or if you've gone to a CVS pharmacy lately, but down here in Florida, man, the lines are out the door. People are just packing them in to get their prescriptions met. But we've seen a significant gain in the healthcare sector. Just take a look at the XLV, for example. Now, what other stocks and what other sectors and what other currency plays can we be looking forward to coming into January? If you're interested in those questions, I'm going to share that with you in just a minute. What I wanted to cover quickly was to actually tell you how we line up. For example, in the S&Ps, if we get a sell signal in the S&Ps, if that's what this vertical line is all about. It just lines up, as you can see here. We have a sell signal at the same time in all three markets, and that's just not any sell signal. If you notice, this candle right here is a doji, and that's what we call the infamous low close doji formation. This actual pattern, if you look here, is from a slide from September 30th of 2012. So this is a formation that I would be looking for where the market rallies, falls back down, comes back up to. We would call that maybe an M-top formation with the lower right side, and then we get a low close doji. That pattern right there is one that if I'm looking for a bearish setup and I want to scan for a bearish setup, that's the kind of pattern I'm looking for, and I just give me an alert when we see that. And then I want to know, is it occurring in the other markets at the same time? Because if it is, then what that tells me is that this is a broad-based sell-off, and it's not just one sector or one market related. Maybe it's a system glitch. Maybe the computer fell off the face of the earth. Maybe financials are down, but not technology and not industrial. So, or maybe the energy sector is down and not technology, and certainly not the Dow. So, with that said, that's why it's important to get confirmation, a true confirming sense of market direction, that when you get a setup that occurs at the same time in all three markets, that's what I mean by this. I like confirmation that the major indexes are in sync with momentum. That's pretty interesting information. So the next question is, well, how often do we see that kind of pattern occur? And if history, of course, past performance does not indicate future results, because I don't know if the market's going to go from 1380 to, it's only a 7-point decline in the S&Ps in like a little bit of an hour. So if you get a low close doji, sometimes you might only get a 2-point move. Sometimes you get a 20-point move. I don't know what the results will be each and every time. That's why past performance is not indicative of future results. But with care and proper management of the trade, I can focus in on that pattern. So just like when we look at like day trading, if we got the 15 minutes in a buy mode, then take 5-minute buy signals against it. Many of you that trade the PPS indicator on TOS, maybe struggle with that. Look at and have two charts up of the same product at different times. Use the 15-minute as your dominant trend and your 5-minute as your trigger, or at least to help to monitor what the trend is doing on a shorter term scale. Because if the market on a 15-minute breaks out and you can't take it, as long as the 15's in a buy mode and the 5 minutes in a buy mode, at least you can go with the dominant trend. So when we're scanning, and some of the 5 steps for setup for scanning are, which we're covering tonight, what we've got to look at is you got to look at seasonal analysis typically to help you understand what normal supply-demand functions are. Now, there's always going to be some crisis. All right, we had the Greek crisis, we had the Japanese tsunami, we've had the elections, we've had, elections are every 4 years. There's always something going on. There's always tragic. The media does not sell positive news. It's tough to sell a newspaper. It's darn near impossible for you to want to tune in to TV unless there's some drama or some hidden negative fact. That's a fact. So remember, there's always going to be something negative to distract you, to deter you from the market. But yet, here we are looking at the market. I'm not telling you to ignore the news, but I think it's important to understand that perhaps the news beats up negative news more than what people give credit for. That's what, and Ricky just pointed out Doomsday, December 21st. Yes, that's Doomsday. Ricky, how did you go to Doomsday? It's supposed to be the Mayan calendar ended, right? So we got Doomsday. So I think that what we try to do is to help people with the right education and the right training and how to focus on specific triggers. And I think if you trade by the rules, you're going to get the confidence from being consistent. And being consistent and good in the market comes from following rules. End of story. If you have the right set of rules, you have the right entry, the right stop, you have the right aspect to the market, this is great. All you need now is to be alerted. Now, wouldn't that be cool? If you can send me an alert every time I get a potential pattern that has a high reliability, that would be pretty cool. And one of the best patterns that we even discussed last month, I went over, and I'm going to use the same slide, is my famous high close doji. It's a specific setup, typically states that you buy when the market closes above a doji after a downtrend. Okay? There's a specific place we put our stops, and it's a phenomenal momentum reversal pattern. For example, after a downtrend, if we see a doji at a support, whether it's longer-term support or shorter-term support. This was just the Smith & Wesson. We used this example from November just last month. All right, a nice little trade that generated a high close doji at monthly support. Really neat stuff. Well, I'm here to tell you that we get a lot of these high close dojis. In fact, if we took a lot of, and of course low close dojis. So if we took, for example, a chart, and I'm going to do that right now for you. This is November. This is actually Google, right? This is a daily bar. This is the monthly pivot support on Google, all right? And you had a high close doji formation in Google at monthly support. Now, this occurred on November 19th. And, of course, Smith & Wesson happened on the first of the month. Now, it's not the greatest move in the world, but you know what? It didn't go down. The market went up. And you know what else, folks? We use this little indicator called on-balance volume indicator, and guess what? It broke out as the market started to move. The momentum was accompanied by an increase in volume. The funny thing is that Google typically starts to bottom out. As you can see, the seasonal trend right here, we typically see a little pop in Google this time of year. And I'm here to tell you that if we had something to scan for high close dojis, and we created a scan for high close dojis for daily charts. One of the things that we're creating is scanning for high close dojis for stocks that are in seasonally strong or entering strong sectors near monthly pivot support. You know, when we take a look at that, we take a look at just that pattern. I mean, this is a stupid company called Adobe. High close doji at monthly support. So the first thing you can start to say is, gee, Adobe's kind of in that, tech space. And notice that the high close doji, the high close doji occurred another date, the 19th. This is kind of important because remember I just talked about a confluence of different markets. How about a confluence of different stocks all forming the same type of pattern at or around the same time? Notice what the conditions are. The market's been in a downtrend. It stopped, it stalled. You get the doji formation, and you get the high close doji, and then you get an acceleration of volume to accompany that trade. Again, this isn't the greatest setup in the world. It's not the greatest move. I mean, but if you could get in on the trade at around 33, I mean, we just hit yesterday monthly predicted resistance at 36. It's 10% move on Adobe. If you're an options trader, could you develop an options trade setup on that? Another one, stupid things like Home Depot at pivot, high close doji. Running scans for that. Again, wasn't the greatest move of all. And I'm here to tell you, I don't want to go through all the stocks, but in different sectors, right? High close doji. Here's Travelers at monthly support. High close doji occurred. Did volume go up? Yeah. Was it the greatest trade in the world? No. But it was a nice trade, great way of identifying at least an opportunity in the market. But one of the other things that I'm talking about is that typically if we're in a seasonally strong period of time for stocks or sectors, right? Listen to this carefully. This is very important. If we're in a seasonally strong period of time, wouldn't it be neat if you scanned for these doji formations, number one, And number two, when you scan for these doji formations, all of a sudden you start to see a couple of them, and notice what the coincidental factor is. They're occurring near predicted monthly support. Not any support, the predicted one, the person's pivot. That's pretty cool stuff. So if you're starting to get more and more stocks, I mean, how much more do you need to say, well, gee, if I'm getting high closed dojis in an insurance company, if I'm getting a high closed doji in Adobe, if I'm getting a high closed doji in Google, if I start to scan around and start looking around, oh, here's one. It was a little bit below monthly support, but there's the doji, and that's a high closed doji, and this is just another company called Honeywell. You know, if you take a look and just look at some of the names that start popping up on the screen, and I popped up the wrong one. Look at Constellation Brand, STZ. High closed doji. It's hard to see that doji, and it's hard to see that close. But all of a sudden, I'm starting to see if I could get this scan that tells me that I'm getting, again, another association with upward move in volume. I'm starting to get some decent ideas that I can make better trade decisions. This is Watson Pharmaceutical. So, again, high closed doji. This is in the middle of December. This all happened between the 16th and the 19th, and even towards the end of the month. There was just an enormous amount of stocks that all generated high closed dojis at predicted monthly support. Here's another one. This is FMC Corporation. Not sure, but I mean, still, you might not want to trade that company. What I'm sharing with you is important, though. If you start to identify that all of a sudden these scans are popping up on all these stocks that are all giving a high closed doji formation at monthly support, that's got to tell you it's not just isolated to one company in one sector. You're getting a bunch of different names in a bunch of different sector. That's a bit of confirmation that you can take with you and now make a better trade decision. So, to focus in on just two little patterns, the high close and the low close. The low close doji, to be able to get warned on a low close doji, if you had a setup that could help you with low close doji, and this is, that little pattern that we talk about, that M top with a low close doji. I want you to take a look at the date. I shared this before a while back. This was election night, all right? So you might not have been trading at election night at 5 a.m. in the morning Central Time, but if you were up and you wanted to see what was going on after a nice little run up in the market, and all of a sudden you get a M-top formation, again, with that low close doji, an alert goes off. And if that occurred in all the markets, at least you now know that you're in a bearish momentum, right? That pattern is very, very important. And the reason I say that is because it happens frequently. How frequently? Well, it actually happened today. This is today, if you notice right here, at 9:45 this morning. One of the other interesting things is yesterday, as I tweeted out to people, the S&Ps were at, remember what I talked about, weekly pivot resistance? Weekly pivot resistance, based off the March contract, was 1434. Remember, March futures contract has a 6-point discount to December. So we actually generated a low close doji formation yesterday, not only in the ES, but I'm pretty sure it happened in the YM if you watch and follow the YM. So here's the YM. This is yesterday right here. So again, a low close doji pattern happens at the same time within all the different markets that we kind of pay attention to, which is kind of cool. So if you can get that, maybe you don't get that low close doji in the Dow, but you get it in the S&Ps. You still get that M-top formation. That low close doji is a very powerful pattern. To get that and to be alerted to that, right, gives you a nice setup. So what's interesting is today that actually occurred at the pivot point. Now, whether you took the trade or not, at least having that information behind you, because there are specific rules of where to place the stop, but being able to be alerted to that. and say, okay, I've got a chart that's going to update me on a sell signal and get a scan. That is something that at least you could get on an intraday basis if you're day trading and it have all these types of signals and setups. That's powerful. But for stock traders, what I think is absolutely amazing, because we are entering seasonally strong period for a lot of different sectors. If you for $26 you can go buy our the Commodity Traders Almanac, right? I think it's $26. It might be $30. I don't remember what it is. And you'll see what markets are coming up with the different changes soon. And one of the market changes that come up in commodities is the euro currency. It changes its move, and I'll just share you with that right now. The euro currency is actually, as it's hit its monthly pivot resistance, right, which was around 131 and change. So we've actually hit that, and the clock is ticking, because as the market runs up towards year end, and you got to admit, the market is up towards year end. It's towards the eye of the quarter. So there's approximately, 2.5 weeks left to the year? Come January, look down here. Look at the bottom. Typically, the trend runs up. They run the euro currency up into the end of the year, and they run the trend down, and the market reverses after the first of the year. So the question begs, and that's what the the Commodity Traders Almanac is all about. Since 1999, that trend has worked every time except for 3 times. If you sell on or about, and I'm just going to repeat this right out of page 16 of the Commodity Traders Almanac, you look for a sell on or about the 16th, or excuse me, the second, third trading day of the year. So in January, you look to sell on around the first week or so. Look for a sell signal on around the first week. So the question is, what kind of sell signal will we be looking for? So we'll be looking for intraday. We're looking for the market to rally. So in order for me to want to get short, I got to ask myself, let me show you what you're looking at here. The first chart on your left, this chart is a monthly chart. So as you can see, since July, the market was at around the low 121 level, right? And so we have gone up, number one. So if I'm looking to sell, I want to make sure the market's been going up. So the question there is, all right, to scan for a trade, I need the conditions to be met. So if the market's going to go down, it has had to been gone up and been in sync with its seasonal tendencies. And this is a trade that has been in sync with its seasonal tendencies. So if the market rallies, tests the high, lingers around, we get into the new year, and we get maybe a daily low close doji or an intraday low close doji, I'll tell you what, we'll be looking for that trade. So a very high probability trade. As you can tell, the weakness in the euro currency lasts going into February. So that's kind of a very important element that we want to be focused in on. All right. So for those traders who are Forex, I hope you enjoyed that. For stock traders, I really want you to understand something. You have the availability to trade the FXE. All right. It's an exchange traded fund, and pretty much mirrors and tracks the same type of performance of the actual euro currency. It's just, as you can see from a day chart. So look at what you got here. We got monthly chart, we have a weekly chart, and we have a daily chart. So just to let you know that if you're going to look at the FXE, track and watch for the liquidity issues, because it doesn't trade around the clock like the euro currencies. You want to watch the euro currency, and for option traders, you may want to look for a rally up here. So we have a trade opportunity that Forex traders can use, day traders can look for, because if this thing does turn and we get a sell signal, we want to be looking at selling rallies, and we know it has a weakening trend that lasts typically into February. So we have statistics on our side, and we now can start to focus in on a bearish formation, a bearish chart pattern. All right? What kind of chart pattern? I'll be looking for these chart patterns right here, the low close doji. This is just another example I just wanted to share with you. Know how often does this pattern happen? It happens frequently. And I mean frequently enough that even in Apple, we find that we can look for these patterns on intraday basis. Apple being a very high beta stock to the overall index, especially the Qs or the NASDAQ 100, looking at that 15-minute, and that's what a lot of my research shared, was that 15-minute combination was a very powerful. It gave a lot of people time to, buy and sell and formulate an opinion and look for momentum shift. High-frequency traders probably aren't interested in this, but I could tell you, by identifying a high closed doji after an uptrend, what it signifies is a significant loss of momentum, and it's immediate, which brings me to my next point. It's not a pattern that you need to wait around for and say, gee, when's the sell-off going to come? A high closed doji forms, and you should see immediate results within at least 2 bars. So what we want to look for is something that can alert us to low closed dojis, and that's what we developed. Last month, we introduced, as an introductory, the scanners on Genesis for intraday and end-of-day scans. Well, we were also in the process of working, and for longer-term traders, I don't know how you would feel about this, but for example, if I could run a scan for high closed dojis and look at patterns that if I've got something like a daily, we could look for daily patterns. If I have something that we released, as we talked about, so looking at that daily high closed doji, what about if we did it on a weekly basis, right? And so therefore, end of day, end of week, we went with weekly high closed dojis, right? That would be pretty impressive. Now, combine the fact that here we have Google, and what's interesting is I want you to look at the seasonality here with me. Follow this together, all right? Seasonally, you get that pattern in November. You got the daily high closed doji right off the get-go on Google, right off monthly support. It's rallied all the way going into December's monthly resistance. I want you to look at the seasonal trend, because do you notice that it's right around the 4th, the beginning of the year? What does Google typically do? Just like the euro currency. I don't know why, but typically Google sells off towards the beginning of the year. So, the first thing I like to know is if it's supposed to go a rally going into year's end, right? Has it been rallying going into year's end? And the answer is yes. We're closer to the high of the year than the low of the year. And perhaps we'll linger around in this vicinity. Maybe we got a little bit more upside going into December. There's only 2 weeks left to go. So what I'm trying to do and share with you is let's plan for some high probability trades. Now, we just had the market come up near monthly pivot on a daily chart, as you know. We had a nice little breakout accompanying this little rally here from 640 to just almost 720, 715 on pretty decent volume. But what history shares with us in looking for scans is that seasonally the trend runs its course. Now, I would love to see if Google continues to move higher in the next couple weeks, or at least does not crash and burn. Let's put it that way, right? And then all of a sudden we get really, really bullish news on the news, right? So bullish news, like all the media is like, oh, Google's a buy, and Google's not going down, and Google can hit $1,000, and Google's going to do this, and Google's going to do that. But that might have been already priced in the market. If I know that technically and fundamentally or seasonally speaking, Google typically peaks out, if it does so and we're at resistance and we get a momentum indicator change, a low closed doji, God forbid we get a low closed doji on a weekly basis, I want to be alerted to that. I don't know about you, I want to be alerted to that. So one of the things that we did create was scans for weekly high close and low close dojis. You know we have daily scans. And so what I want to also mention, for those people who last month took advantage of the introductory offer and who purchased these scanners, I've got great news for you. You're going to get the weekly high close and low close scans for free. That's it. Okay? So there's no charge for that. That's pretty cool. For those that are interested in something like this, I mean, right now we're looking at, the tech space, which has been an information technology, which definitely has strength in the marketplace. This is not the greatest move in the world, but a scan did pop up on, like, for example, SanDisk. As you can see, here's the list of high close dojis that occurred that we got a pop in last week on a high close doji. So you might not, we did get a momentum change to the upside, which, as you can see, was not a bad little move. I don't know if anyone remembers Seagate Technology, but Seagate did a high close doji, and it did pop. The only problem I didn't like about maybe taking advantage of this is, number one, the market is in it wasn't in a significant downtrend. It's more of a sideways action. But we are in a high close doji formation in Seagate Technology. We've got one coming that occurred at monthly support, occurred on Disney. We saw a positive pop there. Cosmic Technology, here's another one that occurred. I mean, not a big deal, but if we're coming into a seasonally strong period and we get through the fiscal cliff, I want to know, are there stocks that have been beaten up that are entering a seasonally strong period of time? Will we get a weekly high close doji? Now, here's a retailer, all right, and I know you guys will probably hate me for this, but here's a retailer that's gotten its butt kicked. But the reason I'm bringing it to your attention is because, according to my technical rules, last week formed a doji. So here's the important thing. I want you to look at this right here. Seasonally, Sears bottoms at the beginning of the year and goes up. So now, interesting, the rules state with a high close, specific rules of how many bars can we get to generate a high close doji signal. Look at the monthly, too. This is a monthly doji. Wow. And it's been in a downtrend. This stock, where has this stock come from? Now, granted, look what it did last year. It's funny because typically, let me tell you something about stocks. If you got a loss on your stock, why not sell it right now, take the loss, and take the tax, assume the tax credit, and help write down some of your at least capital gains that you're going to be hit with, right? So that's what a lot of, some traders do. And so last year was, make no mistake, they did the same thing with Sears. When there's a trade, actually, we look at selling, the dogs of the Dow, right? You look at the stocks that have gotten beaten up the most towards the end of the year, those are the stocks that'll generally be bought at the beginning of the year. So we got a lot of great trading opportunities coming in the next 3 weeks. One of the ones that I want to be focused in on is I want to start focusing in on stocks that are forming weekly dojis. Because if we generate a high close doji, I have now a way to scan for that and have trading opportunities. That, to me, is pretty darn cool. So if you got a little pop-up window that said, hey, we don't just have any buy signal, you got a high close doji, and it's not just in one market, it's in all the markets. Or we just ran a scan, and I want to know what stocks, and this is kind of neat with Genesis, and I don't care who your analytical platform is, whether you're using a Bloomberg terminal, whether you're using TradeStation, whatever analytical. A lot of people use, believe it or not, some people use Thinkorswim, phenomenal platform, and yet they may trade somewhere else to get better commission rates. God forbid that happens, right? We won't let that secret out. I'm not saying everyone does that, and most people don't have to. But yes, Joey Fisher says that we have persons, pivots, and PPS on TOS. And, we've run many classes on how to run scans, but one of the problems is we can't do the high close or low close doji scan on that, and we can't do it on weekly basis yet. So eventually in time. What's really neat about this combination that I'm sharing with you tonight is how do we can actually look at the seasonality and then say, hey, better yet, if we get a high close or a low close doji and it's in a seasonally strong period of time, that is important to me. And that, my friends, looking at the right seasonality, checking out a pattern that has reliability high probability with good risk outlay, a systematic risk outlay. The high close doji and the low close doji have a systematic risk. It's not a defined monetary set price, it's a condition set price, right? So for you who know the pattern, that's one that's very powerful. So next is to identify that and then to see, hey, is the market entering a seasonally strong period of time? Has the market been in sync with its seasonal tendency? You know, if the seasonal tendency for Sears is to go down, you see this orange line? The seasonal tendency for Sears is to go down. All right, so let me ask this question. What has Sears been doing in the same time frame? It's been going down, hasn't it? It's actually right now, and that's what's so beautiful about this. It's been behaving and it's in sync with its current seasonal tendency. So when it's time to look to be a buyer of this thing, I'm not saying that we're going to go from the beginning of January last year, it just puked at like $29, just under $29, and then by March the thing was at 86. I'm not going to say that it can make that move. It's done it before. Is it going to do it again? I don't know. But could it pop to 58? Yes. There's some trading opportunity in here. That's what I'm saying. And so with that said, knowing that we have a lot of different seasonal opportunities coming up, I'm thrilled to be looking. Truthfully, I'm thrilled at the scanning capability that we have right now for scanning for weekly high close doji stocks, and more importantly, I'm thrilled, as you can see here, weekly stocks, high close doji, weekly stocks, low close doji. And one of the neat things is, for example, you have the weekly stocks. This is low close doji. You had DR Horton. It just generated a low close doji after a strong uptrend. But, it only pulls back mildly. It's still in a seasonally strong period of time. And that low close doji, and most of you folks, you may have been realizing that, it's come after it's already had a decline. So it's not really the greatest symbol in the world. Nordstrom, it's made a low close doji. We did see some follow through, momentum to the downside. But typically, let's take a look at the seasonality of Nordstrom. I don't want to be looking at a low close doji. It's an opportunity maybe now start looking for a high close doji, because guess what? It starts to enter a seasonally strong period of time. So it's a matter of being able to filter out what you're looking for. But one of the things that's pretty cool is that we just don't give you a listing of the high close and low close doji. We do so, and it lists what sectors they are in. Now, that book I didn't want to mention, The Master Stock Trader, it's out on Amazon, right? I don't want anyone, don't buy it yet. But it lists every single seasonal sector, or the seasonal strong and weak sectors, and for or what the seasonal strength and weakness are for each sector, whether it's consumer discretionary, whether it is consumer energy, whether we're financials, healthcare, industrials, technology, materials, telecommunication services, and utilities. We do it all. So that's what's kind of cool about the scanning feature. It might be a little bit too much information, but I think it would really help people that if you had something that, if the high close doji generates a very powerful and reliable signal, I would like to have that, and then I can fine tune and target exactly. I can go to a sector. As you see this little button up here, it says energy. Like, I can find out right now, for example, I take a look at Amazon. I know it's in retailing. If I generated a high close doji in Amazon, and I could say, gee, it's in the internet retailing. What's its competitors? And I can look straight down and find out what the competitors are in that field. Are they in similar pattern, or are they out of sync? Priceline's not quite the same as Amazon. It's kind of like a little bit different. Shutterfly, all the different stocks that are in that internet retailing space, I can go to see if perhaps that sector is got other trading opportunities. So if I get something like a CMG, Chipotle Mexican Grill, I just threw it off the top of the list here because my son's here. Many of you might know that I'm not a big Chipotle Mexican Grill fan, and he is. But In any event, if I look at restaurants, I could look at all the different competitors and run a scan and say, gee, what are some of the other stocks? Does this space, does that sector have a seasonal tendency to it? So I think it's important to look at, for running scans, A, is it against support? B, is it a seasonally strong period of time? C, do we have a reliable pattern, a momentum indicator that's sharing, that tells us that there's buying coming into the marketplace? And are we seeing the move accompanied by an increase in volume? That's why we use that on-balance volume indicator. So I wanted to say having the scans is fantastic. Many of you last month took advantage of it. Now we have, if you're interested, we're going to give the high and low close doji scanner and offer this as a final with now the latest improvement, including the weekly high close and low close doji. Includes intraday. So if you're day trading, you should have the scanner up so it alerts you and pops in your face and says, hey, you might not be paying attention, but there's a low close doji in the Dow and you're watching E-mini S&P, or there's a low close doji in the NASDAQ and you're only watching S&Ps. By the way, they're like markets, and maybe you could take a look and trade or piggyback the sell signal that comes in the Dow and apply it into the S&Ps. That's why that intraday scanner is so important. And having the end of day, how many just run the scan every day? How many, do we get any high close dojis today? How many stocks generated and what sectors? If you know that you're looking and interested in consumer discretionary, if you know you're interested in buying opportunities in energy, let's say in February, and you got a bunch of buy signals, but they're high close dojis, there are more higher probability, more powerful trade signals with defined risk strategies. That, my friends, this is probably going to be the most amazing, and I mean this, the most amazing tool for every trader. And you know what? It's only $289. But you got to get Genesis, and I think for tonight, just like we did last time, for those people who subscribed last month, you do not have to pay anything, number one. So if you have Genesis and you subscribe to the Doji scanner last month, you're getting the weekly free upgrade. If you didn't and you want it, it's $289 right now. The first 10 subscribers are going to get a signed copy of the 2013 Commodity Traders Almanac. Now, if you have, listen carefully, for the first 10 subscribers, if you already have the Commodity Traders Almanac, here's what I'm going to do for you. It's not been, I don't have my copies yet, but I was promised that I'm going to get my copies soon. What I'm going to do, if you have the Commodity Traders Almanac, but you do not have the scanners and you want them, I will switch out the Almanac for the brand new Mastering Stock Market book for the first 10 subscriber. That's it. That's the book, Mastering the Stock Market. This book will tell you all about everything you need to know on seasonalities in the different sectors. It has charts, everything on that. So that is the new book that's out that talks about mastering the stock market. All right? So with that said, if, for example, we talk about sector and seasonal analysis, price patterns, volume studies, breadth indicators, moving averages, how to utilize the support and resistance. So if you get the indicator tonight, I will give you, and you already have the Commodity Traders Almanac, I will send a copy of Mastering the Stock Market as my gift to you for the holidays instead of the Commodity Traders Almanac. So I know that there might be some questions here. There is an end-of-day data feed, which is $30 per month, but I think that is a small fee. That's not for me. That's Genesis software. All right? So I know there's some questions there.
Yeah,
so
I could answer a number
let's see if we can get John Jr.
here.
in.
I didn't want to interrupt you in your train of thought here. Let me cover a variety of these questions you guys are throwing up at us. We've worked it out with Trade Navigator. Normally, they do require you to purchase their gold platform. I believe the software runs about, with discount, I believe it's $599. With this scanner, it is not required. So we've worked it out with them that there is no software costs involved. So again, the only cost that we have for the scanner, it's a $289 one-time fee for the scanner itself, which would include the high close, low close Doji scanner on a daily and weekly. Now, for those individuals that would like it to run on an intraday basis for futures and Forex, it will be available for you as well. The only difference is for those end of day data scans, those are $30 per month. If you're looking for more intraday data, the fees can range anywhere between $60 to $115 depending on your data stream. Again, those are all costs through Trade Navigator, not through us. The scanner itself is that one-time fee of $289. So Trade Navigator will provide you the data. They'll send you the software. Again, we worked it out with them where you do not have to pay the gold fee of $599. So it's just that one-time fee in terms of the indicator. They'll provide you the software. The seasonal work that you see that we have that Dad has been presenting is included as well. So you would get that. You don't get the full gold package, Steve, with the indicators or with the scanner. So there are a few things that you're missing, but I mean, it's pretty darn close to being gold. So I will say, Dad, you did an excellent job working with TradeNav to get that for our, our subscribers, the individuals that have followed suit with us. So in terms of the cost, let me go through this again. Someone just popped up a question here. It is $30 a month for the end of day data. So, and in terms of following up on how to set things up, I'm actually in the process right now of doing a recording that I will send out to those individuals, just like how I did for the stock scanner that we did last year. I will go ahead and do a recording, send that link out to you guys so that you can go ahead and go through it to set up your Trade Navigator charts, how you've seen my father just go ahead and do it. And then what I will also do is I will include the actual indicators for 30 days. So not only will you get the book for the first 10, but the buy and sell with the moving averages and the filter pivot points will include those for 30 days free of charge. The seasonals, John, are included. So when I know you just signed up, so the seasonals are going to be included. The signals themselves, unfortunately, no. That is separate. I can name to be honest with you, Ken, I don't know right now, but as soon as I move into the or my email, I can find out. But as of right now, I can't tell because I'm just playing. I'm answering the questions here.
Ken Gross, do you have the CTA? Ken, if you have the Commodity Traders Almanac, I'll personally sign a book for you.
Michael, intraday data can range depending if you're a Forex trader or if you're looking for futures data. Forex, I believe, don't hold me to this. I know it's either $50 to $60 per month for intraday data. I believe the entire package is $115 for futures and stocks for intraday and obviously end of day data. Yes, Genesis will supply you the data. That's why you're paying them the reoccurring fee. Hang on, Ronald, I can check that. Yes, Ronald, I did receive it. And John, I received yours as well. They're popping in right now, but like I said, it's hard to go back and forth. I don't want to knock myself out of the system here. How do you have Genesis end of day? Sorry, questions are moving a little bit quick for me here. Ronald, yes. Mervin, it will work once you have the software loaded into your computer. You can load it in multiple computers. You just cannot open up your Trade Navigator platform for multiple computers at the same time. Yes, Joy, the indicators themselves, they are, for stocks, again, they're $79 for the holiday special. It's $79 for one market or $189 for all three per month. Again, you would receive those free for 30 days. Jerry, the $30 on a day data is provided for the U.S. markets. I don't know if you have any other markets added. What would be the cost? That I do not know. TP, the indicators that you've seen my father have, there were the green and red triangles, the buy and sell indicators, the filtered pivot points. Dad's actually going to display it right now. What's new? The quarterly pivots. That's cool. And so the quarterly pivots are included now, which is something brand new to the indicators. Again, that was something that for all those individuals that are attending right now that have our indicators, that was something that we upgraded free of charge. As well as actually the seasonal trend is on there, the OBV. I mean, all these are new indicators that we've been integrating into the person indicator package. We do, Joy. We can actually discuss. If you have questions on that, you can give me a call or an email. I can give you that information. John, yes, we do have the recording, so we'll get that sent out as well.
I just wanted to make sure we mention, and maybe there might be a little confusion. This is not a monthly fee. That's a one-time fee. It's just one time, $289. That's it, $289. This is a $289 fee to get these scans. I'm going to tell you something. Last week, many of you might know this, but I was up in New York attending and presenting at the Bloomberg Terminal Conference. Tom DeMark. I mean, there are a lot of great technicians, obviously, and everyone was presenting at the Bloomberg Terminal because I just launched very similar indicators on Bloomberg Terminal. But Bloomberg Terminal, most of the people that were, what was really cool, it was mostly institutional and hedge fund traders. I mean, banks, institutions, because the Bloomberg Terminal is about $2,000 a month. So $2,000 a month for quotes is pretty expensive. You better be a serious player in the game. And I'll tell you right now, what I put on Bloomberg Terminal, this is so much better. But for institutional traders, and I mean this, I don't mean to get insulted. There are not a lot of institutional traders, believe it or not, folks. I will put up anyone that goes under my training. I will put up as a smarter, more intelligent trader than some of these hedge fund traders that just are oblivious to technical analysis. I mean, they think 200-day moving average. I'm not joking. In this day and age, I still can't believe it. They think the 200-day moving average is, really what it is because they're longer-term investors. They're still out there, believe it or not. They're just exploring how to manage their risk, their pension fund. This is pretty. It's a crazy group of people that control billions of dollars, but they. Really, you guys probably have more training and education right now on technical analysis than the majority of these guys with deep pockets. But that's a $2,000 a month system, and we aren't charging $289 on the Bloomberg Terminal, by the way, but a one-time fee. This right here to run the scans, the daily high close, the daily low close, the daily scans, the daily buy, the daily sells with PPS. And the weekly high and the weekly low. So, it's not like this is something that this is probably one of the best values for a trading system that I've ever seen put together. And of any of the work that I've done, if you respect my work and you like my research, I'm going to tell you right now, this is incredible. So we might kick ourselves later down the road and say, what were we thinking? But listen to me, a lot of programming went into this. And you'll see us launch this, and you'll see this, and the price will most likely, I don't know what the price is going to do, but it's not going to stay. There was a lot of work that went into programming this stuff. This is pretty advanced stuff. So I know there's a lot of questions on what's Genesis, and it's something new, and I respect that. And if you want to get more questions answered with Genesis, hey, we'll extend that. I think what the important thing is, if you have questions, then ask us. Go email us at johnp@nationalfutures.com. Come visit us here and go get that done. So this offer will definitely extend if you were here tonight through at least absolutely through the weekend. Okay, because I want you guys to. I don't want to say, hey, just go sign up and sign up right now. I mean, you can. And obviously, for the first 10 people, let me know if you've got the 2013 Commodity Traders Almanac. Fine. And you want, I'll switch out with the Mastering the Stock Market. I'll do that for you for the first 10 people. Ken, I want to make sure, but I'm going to.
Hey, actually, Dan, I don't mean to interrupt you here, but
I want
the 10 have already
10
been.
10 grows. If he signs up, he's getting a book. End of story. But now you can take over.
I just want to let you know the 10 are already gone. Why don't we do this? Do you have another 5 to 10 left?
Of which?
Of the Commodity Traders Almanac?
Yes, absolutely. I'll do another 10. We'll do 20. What the heck? Splurge. It's Christmas.
All right, so for the first, from now, between the 10 to 20 individuals that sign up will receive the Commodity Traders Almanac, and we'll get that shipped out as well for those individuals. So that's an excellent opportunity. I think it's really cool that we're able to, no, Ken, there's not a coupon code. I will say, what's really cool is that for those individuals that are in the trading room, you're able to see live, the low close doji, and that would pop up on the intraday portion. So that's something that it's pretty cool to be able to tell you on a low close doji or a high close doji on a five all the way up to a 60-minute chart. Oh, I'm sorry about that, guys. When does our trading room start? Trading room, actually, folks, that's something else that we wanted to mention. For those individuals that are here joining us tonight, if you wish to come on in and just take a look at our trading room, our training room, you can come in tomorrow morning at 8 Central, and it would run all the way to about 3:15 Central. And you're more than welcome to join us tomorrow, and just use the same email link and password that you used to log in tonight. We're more than happy to let you come in as well. So, if you guys have any additional questions, please, feel free to let us know. Hey, Paul, I appreciate that. Merry Christmas to you as well. Oh, Richard, absolutely. Actually, I'll be having that recording sent out to you as well to get that. I know a number of you guys not only purchased it tonight, but have had the indicator pre-launch and wanted to just inform you that we will be having a recording sent out of how to set up these scans and how to set up the charts properly in terms of the way that you've seen my father had them presented this evening. Ronald, just use the same link that you've used to come in tonight and the same password. And James, I'm sorry, but those are the moving averages that we use on the Trade Navigator indicator. They're proprietary. Oh, Scott, you as well. Hey, Dad, you gotta go through, take a look. Actually, it's kind of funny. Time of day I know is not the best, but it's funny that crude oil. I believe it's a 15-minute crude oil chart. Did a 15-minute high close doji at 86.27 to 86.49. Obviously it's just taking a look at a variety of different things that's going on in the market right now. Hang on a second, folks.
Well, what I wanted to share with you is, you see, here's a doji, for example, and this is a high close doji. So at 1945, and as you can see here, at 1945, right there, that blue bar, It says JP, high close doji futures, intraday, ES, just triggered, a 15-minute. So you get I mean, this isn't the greatest thing in the world, but you get you got the buy signal on the high close doji at 12.5, right? And then the market's trading, and an indicator fires off later. Well, the indicators are good. See, you get a nice fire off on an indicator. But at least if you get a 15, sometimes the high close dojis are a lot earlier than the regular indicator. So, the thing just to share with you, it does fire off when we're getting buy signals and in the different markets that you want them to alert you to. So obviously we've got it color coded, so it's real simple. Green means buy, red means sell, right? So if you get those high close dojis, we've got them on the different time frames. So you'll be alerted on 30-minute, 15-minute, and 5-minute. Very cool time frames, just to let you know. Now, one of the things that's neat about this is when we go into scanning opportunities and you're looking for scans, remember how we've broken this down, which is kind of cool, which is very unique, right? Is that we've whipped it into weekly scans. So it's not just looking for daily, but it's looking for weekly high close doji in stocks, weekly low close doji stocks. Now here's another thing we didn't really talk about, so you can do a little bit more investigating work, give you a shot at this. But let's say, for example, I go over here and I want to go, and I go into my filters, and I go into all what I want to do is I want to do high close and weekly stocks. Notice how we've got it listed here. Like I said to you before, all stocks in the S&P 500. And then what we've done is broken it down to consumer discretionary, staples, energy, financials, healthcare, industrials, information technology, materials, telecom, services, utilities, right? Then we got the weekly all, and then you can just scroll through and break it down. All right. So let's say, for example, I go over to criteria and I scroll down, and that's the S&P 500. So I've got that, right? That's pretty cool. Weekly, not just daily, but weekly. So I want to go over here and I want to look at weekly high close doji stocks. I can now edit this, right? And let's say, for example, I want all stocks. I want just the NASDAQ, just the Dow. I want just run a scan on Forex. I want to just run a scan on NASDAQ, on NICE, on Russell. So if you think we're coming into a time frame that the small cap outperforms large cap, we call that the January effect, right? Maybe we want to look for some buying opportunities, some high close dojis, not on the S&P 500, but I want to run scans on the Russell 1000 or 2000. I don't know if everyone can see this, but you're not just limiting yourself, and I just didn't limit you to what I did is we just sat down with the programming with this Genesis package, and I don't know if you understand the power that's in your hands right now to scan for the most amazing setup to alert you to it so that you're able to at least make a better informed, educated trading decision. So whether you're trading stocks, futures, or Forex, this is one of the most powerful scanners that I've ever seen put together, and it's taken, and I'm telling you, and everyone that knows us in Trading Triggers, this has taken a long, long time. So it's not just a daily scan for high close and low close doji. That's cool stuff right there in itself. But to have it done on an intraday basis, but more importantly, to have it weekly, to have not just S&P 500, but you have the availability to run scan on any stock in any sector or any index that you want, whether it's Russell 1, 2, or 3,000. Optionable stocks, for example. Everything that you see listed in here is available for you guys and ladies and gentlemen to run. So with that said, I hope you found this is an amazing product, to be truthful. Amazing. Genesis, I think the price for the quote feed is dirt cheap. If you're an intraday trader, obviously you're going to pay more for intraday data. if you're end of day, running the weekly scans and the end of day scans are going to be fantastic for you, and you can do that every weekend. It does it automatically